Happy Thursday. Welcome to another episode of SandCity Sports. As we move and groove towards the end of not just July, but also another week. Another week in the books. Let's take a look here. We got NFL preseason. Yeah. Preseason football. Some moves that's been made. In MLB, some teams that's doing some things to improve their lot. So as is the case, we're moving and grooving, making sure our socials are in order. Facebook and IG are good. YouTube is good. Always breaking news and information on Twitter. Twitter is good. And let's see where the Twitch is at. See where the stream is at on Twitch. Let's get that straightened out. It's good to see. Reach out to folks. Let them know that SandCity is doing what it's doing. And we're gonna get it going. A lot. Chris, what's going on? Good. To salute to you as well. It's good to see you here in the virtual space. Hope your day has gone well. Hope things are going well on the left coast. I learned something new as well today, but I'm interested in your share. I learned something about Bruce Lee that I wasn't familiar with. You know, just in terms of, and it was one of the other programs I follow. Shout out to Chilltown. Shout out to Sports Fluent, Sports Fluent Network, where you can find SandCity Sports. Chilltown does a solid job. He's also on the panel, which is a really good program. It sounds a little bit outdated, but I don't mind. You know, that's the words that, you know, the elders used to use. You know, I'm watching my program. But shout out to Sports Fluent. Tony does a solid job. Shout out to the panel and all of those gentlemen that do a solid job during the day. And they also have some evening programming. So respect. But before Chris gets to what he learned new today, listening, Chilltown was breaking it down, had the St. Anthony's shirt on. Chilltown played for and won a natty with the St. Anthony's Friars. Shout out to Jersey City. Shout out to Bob Hurley Sr., okay, Hall of Famer, as well as the Suns. Bobby Hurley Jr., who's doing his thing out in the desert lands in Arizona State, and they need to lock him up long term and keep him there as long as possible. And then, of course, Danny, back-to-back natties, and was quite close this year to knocking out the champions to be in the Florida Gators. So the Hurley family writ large, family of coaches, and I imagine there'll be some further and future coaches within the genealogy. It's in the DNA. But my share for the day, before we get to Chris's point, before we move over to the intro, is that Chilltown was like, Bruce Lee was 5'4". I said, what? Mr. Enter the Dragon, Mr. 1-inch punch, from here, bam, putting dudes on their behind. Somebody who we lost far too early. Forget what the conversation was. They've been talking about skilled players and players at or just below 6 foot. The Allen Iversons, the Isaiah Thomas, Detroit Pistons, Isaiah Thomas. And then of course Isaiah Thomas of the modern era. And then they were kind of going back and forth. It's like, Bruce Lee is only 5'4", and I said, what? Oh my goodness! Never mind the iconic shot, which we'll get for you, of him karate kicking a one Mr. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Might have been a Lou Alcindor in those days. See, Chris is already bringing, as we talk about, right? SandCity Sports Passion Project, but my heroes, the David Simons of the world. Shout out to the Wire. Shout out to the Trey. If you haven't checked out, we got to get Trey on this, because this is what I do. I go back through my greats. You know what I mean? I don't always go to the new stuff, which is a little bit. Yes, indeed, Chris. You're speaking that language. The Martha's Vineyard Film Festival does kick off this weekend, and it runs concurrently with the Woods Hole Film Festival. I'm going to get into both of those in a little bit more detail, but they're both off the chains. You know when you see a Spike Lee joint, you know what time it is, and Spike Lee is a consistent participator in the Martha's Vineyard Film Festival, which we will dive into. Folks, in a second. But you know what this is. Welcome to SandCity Sports. We are to the business. I am your host, King Kaki Arthur. Thank you so much, my people out there in television land, for tuning in to SandCity Sports. We're back again to bring you all the sports and current events, news, stories that you need to know. Rock with me. Come back. Get a little bit more. We call that's that good little marinara, that good little sauce to make the plate right. We are closing out the month of July. Time has been flying. We've been having that fun. We are gallivanting into Augusta on tomorrow. But in the meantime, we're gonna make it do what it is. Yes, indeed. My roommates in college, they would say, nevertheless, the team blessed. They had the lyrics. They were putting forth the lyrics and the rhymes. But let's get that. So to Chris's point, folks, and you see the beautiful, right? You can see behind SandCity Sports, the coastline. Bright blue skies, and it's wonderful. That's actually where I was yesterday. Couldn't rock with you yesterday. Did have to, you know what I mean, go over. Indeed. So an up-and-coming documentary. I wasn't aware, but just to connect the dots and go from, because Chris is spitting facts right now. So the way that it works is the Woods Hole Film Festival, which you might not have been aware of, and you might not be necessarily be familiar. Okay, Emmett is doing what he's doing. Shout out to Emmett. Is doing what he's doing. Respect, my man Emmett. Okay, he might tune in to check in. So this is we got a lot of good stuff for you guys to be participating in tonight. So lock in. Check out Emmett on he's on Twitter right now. X. Okay. SandCity Sports is here. And hey, me Casa is Sue Casa. If you guys want to get down, Chris has already added a number of things that we're gonna dive into. But there's a lot of great things that's taking place. Shout out Emmett, the Seahawks fan. Okay, the Mariners making some moves. Things going on out there in the Pacific Northwest that our friend of the show, as they say, Emmett will be examining. Okay, so to Chris's point, up and coming documentary, George Raveling, original copy of the I Have a Dream speech, right? So let me just get us to Martha's Vineyard, which is on the horizon, right? With Friday. So the festival might start Thursday, but might start on Friday and then just go throughout the week. Or I don't know if it starts Saturday and goes Saturday to Sunday. That's what the case is with Woods Hole, right? So we don't just trust, but we also verify. So let's break it down for folks so that we can all be on the same page with this. I was actually taking a look the other day. Yeah, man. So we're talking about film festival. We're talking about the season. All right, so it's going to jump off on Sunday. Chris, thank you. Oh, first to third. No, the MV, that might be the first component of the festival, but I'm almost positive. I don't like to necessarily use that language, almost positive, because that doesn't really. Because if I'm positive, I'm positive. So you can't be almost positive. Either you're positive or you're not. So that's poor semantics and poor grammar. The festival lasts about a week. And so just a little bit, geography for folks, because this is why you tuned into SandCity Sports, to get the geography lesson. I know that's why you tuned in. And we can see it, which is super cool. You can see it clearly on the screen. And I'll get to this in Slice of Life. So Woods Hole, where it says the Woods Hole Film Festival, which is going on right now, which is super cool. This is where your boy was yesterday when I have to travel out to go to MV in the winter to referee basketball. It's always a fun trip to go over and check out the island. And this is where we get the ferry. This is where yesterday, I'm sitting here and I took some, not only were, they're great independent films, but the scenery, it was a beautiful day. Then we got some rain coming in tonight and tomorrow. It's going to clear up again on Saturday. And Sunday, where I'll be back in Woods Hole. But you can just look across the Vineyard Sound and see MV. It's 1 and 2. And the Woods Hole. So the geography, for those that you might have wanted to know, might have not wanted to know, but we're rocking it. As I've said, Woods Hole is finishing up Sunday, so still more to go, and then that will lend itself to the Martha's Vineyard Film Festival. So let's. I want to continue on this point because it's hyper local. It's very important. Okay. So we see we just go right from one over to the other. All right. And so just for people to okay. You out there in television land, my people that's rocking with us. You've seen the movie or are aware of the movie Titanic. My heart, your heart, it will go on. James Cameron, Leo. It's been a minute since it came out. Very well done film. Good stuff. Okay, the Titanic was discovered. Um, Steve Steve Ballard. Get that. No. Let me get his name right. Robert. Hold on. Should know this off the top of my head. Robert Ballard. Thank you. Discovered the Titanic. He was a scientist at Woods Hole. Scientist at Woods Hole. Right? So it's there's a lot of history when you know Woods Hole is known for marine research, and that was one of the more notable discoveries, breakthroughs. I mean, everybody knows the Titanic, Robert Ballard, Woods Hole, Alvin, the submersible that went down there and discovered the wreckage. At Redfield Auditorium, where they have some of the screenings, you know, they have Alvin, the submersible. I'm not sure if it's the original one that went down there or one of the, you know, obviously you're not going to go out there with just one submersible, but just sitting there chilling at the, you know, out in front of the building when you walk in. So it's pretty cool. I being kind of just a local yokel, homebody, if you will, was not familiar with the Woods Hole Film Festival up until like 4 or 5 years ago. You know, and a good buddy, uh, you know, we call him the Senor because he just has a very regal, looks like a, you know, he's not Spanish, but he has a very regal, stately attitude about him. Uh, you know, my buddy's like, the guy looks like a Spanish gentleman, so we just started calling him Senor. Uh, he invited me out to the Woods Hole Film Festival 4 or 5 years ago, and my attitude was, you know, like, what the heck are we going all the way out there for? Falmouth, like as if Falmouth was in another state. You know, it is about 40 minutes away, and it's you saw kind of where Woods Hole is. It's we call Falmouth the Texas of Cape Cod. Uh, but I begrudgingly went, and I have been a devotee ever since. Whereas like the last couple, like this year, my buddy, he's working really hard in the summer. You know, he works for one of the summer companies that does a lot of big events uh, just throughout the Cape. So he's slammed, and you know, was a chance we're gonna go yesterday to the show. He called me up. He's just like, you know, and yeah, we've been having you know some good heat. Been a heat wave that's come through that we're taking advantage of, hook, line, and sinker, because always winter is coming. But Tuesday and then Wednesday, it's just been blazing. It's been blazing. Now again, it's not as hot as Florida. It's not as hot as Arizona, or not comparing it, but it's humid. And the people in Florida understand there's a difference, you know, out there in AZ, and now that's when you're getting the triple digits, 110, 115, that's a whole other ball of wax. Okay, but it's cool in the morning and it's cool at night. You know, it's not humid. Thank goodness. So here it's cooler. Obviously, it's not in the triple digits, but the humidity is what gets you, and that's what it's been the last couple days. So my buddy couldn't make it out yesterday, but before the end of the week, um, Be good to, and folks go different days. You go to different screenings. What's cool about the latter part of the week, the beginning of the week is super cool because that's when a lot of the filmmakers are there. And Woods Hole focuses on independent films and emerging artists. So a lot of folks that are doing projects that are going to make it onto the different platforms, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, so on and forth, they will start on the film circuit, visiting places like Woods Hole. Um, and early in the week, those folks are there. A lot of the artists themselves are there. As the week goes on, like people, they're super busy. One woman came from Japan, as she's getting off on the onto the festival circuit. Um, and so they'll go. I mean, and they'll do a screening at Woods Hole, and then they'll go across and do a screening at Martha's Vineyard Film. It makes sense. There's no. It makes perfect sense. Now, as proud is the wrong word. Thankful as I am that my buddy put me on to the film festival. Again, it's been like 5-6 years that I've been going consistently. I am not pleased to say that I have not been to the Martha's Vineyard Film Festival. I haven't taken that additional step to get up early, catch the boat, and just spend the day over there. Okay. Efforting towards that this year. People out there in television land, you can hold me accountable. But that is the plan for next week. Excuse me. To pick a day, and I'm going. Get my tickets in advance. You have to kind of live that island life, which the islanders are just familiar with, by the boat schedule. Um, so catch the 7 o'clock boat or 8-9 o'clock boat, whatever it is. Get over there. Then you got to get the Uber over. It's a little bit different. I don't have my vehicle with me. You know, um, which is kind of a way of thinking. Like maybe I could just take my car and have my car. But then the thing that you have to watch if you do take your vehicle over there or how you travel is when the passenger boat is heading back. Right? Think or the car boat, when that last boat is versus when the last passenger boat is. That's why I'm a little bit reticent to take my vehicle, because I don't think it'll leave me enough time. I want to stay over there as much as possible. Certainly don't want to miss the last boat and have to sleep on the beach. Um, but it is what it is. Shout out to the Woods Hole Film Festival. You know, these events, it has, it's like uh, track and field. Whereas, yes, it's a race and competition, everyone's, but it's a very collaborative and supportive environment, And I know the filmmakers, they're competing and they want to get, that's all a part of it. But with emerging artists and independent films, a lot of it is just the joy, like we talk about in this pod, it being a passion project. A lot of it is the joy that, you know, I've gotten this far. Doing it, shoestring budget. A lot of times it's their first feature film, whether it's a short, whether it's that just to prove that you could hit this benchmark is a really big deal. And so you see that, it's just an ambiance of support and encouragement that is that's cool. Now I don't want to finish there. Got to give a shout out to the MVFF. No, 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 no. Okay. And so the Martha's Vineyard Film Festival coming up coming up next week. And just following. Hold on. I moved. I'm. This is a production issue. I moved. I went to change, and then so you can't see what I'm seeing out there in television land, folks. My bad. This is Martha's Vineyard Film Festival, which I almost had to slap the taste out of my own mouth when I saw that the Martha's Vineyard Film Festival is partnered with 30 for 30. See if I can get that imagery for you. That's pretty good art. That's good art, but come on back. Should be able to. Yep, that's what I was looking for. There's the shot that I'm looking for to help people. You understand? This is what, right? This is what Chris was bringing into the. This is what Chris was bringing into the building. You understand? This is what we're talking about, that good marinara, right? Well, you know what I mean? Whether we're talking about Sopranos, whether we're talking about The Wire, whether we're talking about Clockers, a Spike Lee joint. Okay, we it's that good marinara that make the plate right. So, Chris, this is what you're liable to see at the Martha's Vineyard Film Festival. All right. Then what would you like to see at the MV Film Festival? Okay, so you know. All right, y'all recognize filmmakers, first ladies, leaders of the free world, right? This is what MV with the Martha's Vineyard Film Festival is known for. And then you add to that, just looking behind, that they partner with ESPN 30 for 30. Say no more. Say no more, folks. And so you see why I had to slap the taste out of my own mouth. That I didn't take the time, get up, show some discipline, get over there and participate in these just tremendous summer opportunities. So, I know we got sports and a lot of stuff in the world of sports. And actually, things that are going on off of the fields and the courts and the arenas need to be discussed. We have some headlining personalities in sports media that are leading the news cycle, which we will discuss. But we have to, okay, as they say, you got to get it while the getting is good. Summertime, Cape and Islands, very fortunate. H.O.F Film Festival going on right now. Martha's Vineyard Film Festival kicking off next week. Talking about celebrating the arts, communication. These works of art are most definitely, as I say, transcendent, and it's a beautiful thing. Alrighty. Let's take a look at the first preseason game of the season. one-sided affair. Chargers manhandling the Lions as football returns. New faces in some new places. Okay? And so, off top, I'm happy for Trey Lance. Yes, it's the preseason, but this is his regular season. He needs to change the narrative about himself. Chris not impressed with the game. Had a little bit, it's like I'm checking. This game is on Paramount. This game is on Amazon Prime. Next week it's on Netflix. Just a sign of the times. Whatever happened to NBC, ABC, and CBS? Whatever happened to the big three? Okay? Chris said, hey, you turn that thing off, you're watching some soccer. Shout out to soccer. I might have to glad you mentioned that. I might have to put some of the soccer games on, some of the soccer matches on myself. The reason I had to take a different approach, not that Chris is wrong and that the game was not exciting, informative, a lot of people whose names you don't know, but that's what draws me in and why I'm fascinated by preseason football, by hard knocks football. It's the Rudy Rudiger stories. Am I saying Trey Lance is Rudy Rudiger? Not at all. Top pick in the NFL draft. Didn't work out in his first destination. Now he's looking to change the narrative, to rewrite the story. How's that worked out for Baker Mayfield? There was a narrative and a story about him. Call him old Faker Mayfield. That's what they was calling him. Faker Mayfield. Next thing you know, he's a top 10 quarterback in the league, getting Pro Bowl respect. Trey Lance, playing with Harbaugh. Do we remember what Harbaugh is able to do with mobile quarterbacks? Never mind the social political stances those mobile quarterbacks took. All right? The point is, he can get the best out of that skill set. Mr. Warner, delivering groceries while playing semi-pro football. His people stuck by him. Super Bowl championships, Pro Bowls, the rest is history. I cannot disagree with that statement about, Kurt Warner. Is he the GOAT? I'm not. I can rock with that. Football is a sport where, never mind NIL and guys starting off at Division II and moving up, and whereas you can, right, with the way that the landscape has changed, you can start at JUCO, you can start Division II, Division III if you ball out every year, and it shouldn't necessarily be every year. We talked about this, but now you have an opportunity to get to where you want to go. Whereas previously, those stories about a Jerry Rice, Shannon Sharpe in terms of his playing career. Those individuals that would go on to be all-time greats and Hall of Famers that you found at smaller schools, those stories were much more few and far between, whereas now it's standard operating procedure. So Kurt Warner, he was an individual that had to pull himself up by his bootstraps. He had to make it the hard way. I don't. I can't think of somebody right off the top of my head that's had as much success coming from that background. All right. While respecting the NFL for allowing, I think of like a Julian Edelman, right? Played quarterback in college. You know, this time of year in football, there's a lot of those individuals who just have the love for the game. And and this is their moment. This is their opportunity. We saw it with the NBA Summer League. And it's those individuals whose names you don't know. Obviously, if you're in a professional environment setting, you're a tremendous athlete, wildly capable. Um, but which one? Because it's certainly not going to be everyone, right? The rule is the majority of these guys who are, shout out to the 80s, living on a hope and a prayer, are going to be back to their regularly scheduled programming as we move into September. That's just the hard facts. But you have the Kurt Warners of the world. Somebody who I think of that was ahead of their time is Doug Flutie, who deserved an opportunity. Okay. I'm going to talk about Kyler Murray and the bag that he just secured and the opportunities that he still has with the Cardinals and some of the elite weapons. Think about Harrison Jr. at his disposal. Kyler Murray owes a lot, dare I say, his career to the Doug Fluties of the world, who had to go to Canada for the majority of his career and get it done before, in his advanced years, almost like a Satchel Paige situation, the NFL finally gives him an opportunity, comes down here and balls. Out there for the then San Diego Chargers, balling. They had to make the switch over to Phillip Rivers. Another curveball he had to face. But Doug Flutie today, if he's doing what he did at BC then, come on now. And Kyler Murray is a one-to-one comp. Unfortunate that we weren't able to see that, because the thinking, the paradigm wasn't there. Same is true for African American quarterbacks during certainly the 70s into the 80s and 90s. Shout out to Doug Williams. These transcendent is a lot. But these all pro level players that not only do they have to prove themselves, to show that they are the best of the best, but in doing so, puts them in an awkward position because they are overturning the prevailing narrative and understanding. Essentially, they're making Doug Flutie, Doug Williams, the powers that be look stupid. And so how do you feel? You have to go into, I think you'd have a chip on your shoulder and I told you so. But then those people who have been embarrassed, these scouts, coaches, executives who've been embarrassed, and that happens in sports. Now those individuals, again, have to work with them. Hopefully those fences can be, those fences take some time to mend. And then you kind of move forward. Back to today's game. I'm loving the fact that Trey Lance balled out. Did he need to ball out? Yes. Because if he goes out, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and they win going away, Um, are people now going to say that Trey Lance is going to leapfrog Justin Herbert for the starting role? Absolutely not. But he represented himself well, and he can use this to continue to move up the ladder to possibly having another opportunity to be a starting quarterback. But if Trey Lance goes out there, so that's just because he did what he's quote unquote supposed to do. My point with Trey Lance, and we'll get over to Lamar Jackson, is you do what you're supposed to do in that situation, then okay, things are just as they were. No celebration, no pats on the back. Not that you need any of that stuff. But Trey Lance goes out there and throws 2 picks with a QBR in the 30s. People are lining up. The line is around the corner for any and everyone to pile on and get on the I told you so bandwagon. Chris, you were on the Lamar train early. Those receipts are worth their weight in gold. Right? Harbaugh, his recent statement about Lamar Jackson's an elite thrower of the football. Excuse me. A narrative that the Ravens want to continue to propagate. Give confidence to their franchise quarterback. Lamar Jackson is one of the best throwers of the football. It is not disputable on the merits, his statistics. But what I and you and Chris and everyone else knows is it's all good and well. Lamar's got to win a Super Bowl. He's got to win a Super Bowl to really be in the same conversation as a Patrick Mahomes. And in the scope of time, Lamar might have to win multiple Super Bowls to be considered in that light, given how successful Patrick Mahomes already is in his short NFL career. Okay, so we're talking preseason, and we're talking about how this is the regular season and a bit of the playoffs for some folks, which makes it exciting viewing. Maybe not on the surface of it. Is it wildly engaging? Again, not the familiarity with the players and maybe the sensitivity to what's going on, meaning you play well in this game or you're behind is going home. And that's the only 2 ways about it. You don't get mulligans during these times. And if you've been somebody like Trey Lance who's been working in silence for a long time to get to this stage and opportunity, which you have the attention that you have. People are going to tune in because it's football, but you don't have Buffalo versus Kansas City. You don't have Baltimore versus Pittsburgh level of eyes and energy. But you got to grow where you're playing. You have to maximize what you do have access to. It's almost like an Olympic view, right? Preseason football. These guys, you'd have to guess. Better term is assume. Have been working really hard, to be there. And so it is a single elimination, for a single elimination feel and vibe. And Trey Lance today, he balled out in those circumstances, going up against a Super Bowl contender. Yes, they're not playing Hutchinson and all of their defensive standouts. Hutchinson still being hurt. But they're trying to, they being the Lions, are doing the same thing. Developing players, building continuity, all going up to, you want to be able to win possessions. You win enough possessions, you're going to win the game. That's what you're battling out. So shout out to Trey Lance. Preseason, folks, Hard Knocks land. Go ahead and get it. I'm going to have to see it during the regular season, which is going to be difficult. Lance being behind Justin Herbert. So in that circumstance, I'm going to be hoping that the Chargers are able to run away from some teams they struggled mightily with last year. John Harbaugh, he wants to ground and pound people, wear them down. These battles of attrition. If they're successful in doing that and Trey Lance can get in the field and he's out there getting 2-3 touchdowns, people say, oh, it's garbage time. Well, hey, this is when my opportunity comes around. I have no choice but to shine bright. So whether it's garbage time, quote unquote, I don't necessarily know what that means in a professional sport. But down the stretch, once the game is already in hand in the fourth quarter or during these different points in the game where your team has amassed a big lead, you got to contribute to that lead. You got to keep the ball rolling. You got to go out there and get your own highlights. So to Chris's point, I think the Saints do make a move for him. They have to see it, though. And not just, a hot streak in one game or, high-fiving everybody in the world is dandy. They got to see it when the chips are down, when you're losing, when guys are bickering amongst themselves. How do you respond to that? And then also how you compete in close games or games where you're behind, dare I say, on the way to getting embarrassed. Can you stay the course? Saints see those things. They start to move over towards Seattle's section in the Hall of Fame, game or some of these preseason matchups. That's when Saints are seeing that. Okay, it's time to have a conversation with their people. Keep this under wraps, but we see how you have put Trey in position to be successful. We think we can do the same thing. We don't have a definitive starting quarterback. Send him down. And that'd be a win-win. Trey Lance will get to play. We're not going to have the talent, not going to have the weapons, so be careful what you wish for. But, I think to a man, players want to be out there, having the opportunity to shine, okay, or fall. I think that's what's most important. All right. Take one more look at our final score. Scores 21-7 at the half. Seemed like the Lions became conservative, get the win. 3 shutout quarters. Speaks for itself. A little bit of a controversy on that touchdown. No, excuse me. Thinking about the Patriots. No yawning on SandCity Sports. Who's wide receiver maybe stepping up to clash with a one Mr. Bill Belichick. Did I say Bill Belichick? Mike Vrabel. Bill Belichick's taking his talents to North Carolina. Let me get my act together here, folks. Let me get my act together. As SandCity Sports moves and grooves. Share the screen so y'all can see. Good folks out there in television land can see what I'm seeing. That Trey lands to the Saints. That is interesting. But, 13 for 20, 120 yards. 2 touchdowns. Only sacked once. 114 QBR. 115, essentially. Nine for 14, 91 yards for Kyle Allen, 2 interceptions. Low rating. And then, the Rooks, they didn't turn the ball over. 2 for 3 for 25 yards is better than 3 for 6 for 18 yards. So a work in progress. How's this going to affect the beginning of the season? Let's take a look. Because if we're talking about a team, it's all about preparing. Right? Speaking of New Orleans, they'll play New Orleans. Play the Chargers team, well coached, gritty, and they'll play the 49ers, well coached, undermanned to a certain extent. San Francisco, some injuries and some departures. So what's Detroit's record coming out of the preseason? I think they're going to get New Orleans. I think they'll be challenged, but they'll get the Rams and they'll lose. Oh, hold on. And then if I'm the Ravens, I got to start the season at Kansas City, right? So these matchups against the the Saints, the Rams, and the Niners. Kyle Shanahan or kid who just, beat the team level in Madden 2025. Either one of those individuals, I have to get ready for Kansas City week 1. Not going to roll over. Not going to allow ourselves to just get manhandled. So the Chargers, These games, they beat the brakes off the Detroit Pistons. Excuse me, Detroit. I'm making a little bit too many mistakes, as we approach the first hour of this program. I got to step it up. I got to step this thing up. I don't know. I might need a. Do I need a snack of Rudy? Maybe not. But the game needs to be stepped up. I don't think I need a snack of Rudy, even though I did go to Trader Joe's today. Shout out to Trader Joe's. So many great things to choose from, just in terms of meals, organic, fresh, and then their snack of Rudy game is next level. I have to. And Chris, thanks. I was thinking, folks, let me know. Let's go across the social, see what we're doing. Let's go across our socials and see what we're doing. Oh, yay. The IG is good. Facebook is good. Twitter, we good. Everything good on Twitter. Making it do what it do. A couple folks on Twitter. Respect. Also, check out Emmett. That's doing his thing. Now that football's back, I know Nightcap's going to be in the building. And so let's talk about what's going on, because this has been on my mind. Chris, please jump in, folks. We're going to keep it family friendly. Let's establish that from the jump. We keep in SandCity Sports family friendly, but we're going to talk about the issues that's going on. We're talking about the issues that's going on. We're going to do it in a PG-13 fashion. That's what we're doing. All right? Different platform, different approach. You do what you do. You have a right to do what you do. As far as we do, this is not Times Square in the 70s, and this is Disney. This is the Disney version of Times Square here. I can't give you 70s Times Square. Okay. By the way, check out the Deuce, David Simon, who talks about the changing of Times Square and what it was and what it became. Didn't necessarily dive too deep into that project, but anything that's David Simon, I got to give him credit. That wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but it was good. I'm more Wire, as you know, and the Treme. You gotta check out the Treme. It's really, really good. All right, but now we gotta dive in, because I've been there's some things that's on my mind. I've outlined. If anybody want to go ahead and come back and he said this, okay, watch the fullness of what I'm saying, because we're from the beginning, we're framing how it's gonna go down, but it is going down. It is going down. So we're going to start with Unc, who's on right now. We're going to start with Unc in terms of what's recently been out there. And then, right, we have to look at kind of the big picture. Let's see here. Okay, so let's get Unc. Yeah. So let's talk about what's going on. And on this, we're going to work backwards. We're going to start from here, and we're going all the way back to Undisputed. So buckle up, because this has been brewing with me. Been brewing. All right, so it's in the headlines. Shannon Sharpe out at ESPN. It's it's news. He was a key contributor at ESPN. We talk about trucks and trailers. He was a trailer. Okay, Stephen A. Smith is the truck. He's the straw that stirs the drink. It's no shame in not being Stephen A. Smith. There's only one Stephen A. Okay? There's only one Pat McAfee. Now we see what's happening at Fox Sports with David Portnoy bringing his Barstool brand over to them. Okay? So to start with, Shannon Sharpe was come in the first take, Mondays and Tuesdays. He brought a flavor and a flair, and it was working. They went back to the HBCUs. It was poetry in motion. Okay, so right. Let's yeah, we're gonna speak on that. We're gonna speak on right in the 40s. That's I'm not a young whippersnapper, but I'm not, so I'm in that middle age range. Let me just get this shot right. But let's talk about, and I am gonna speak to the young guys that's coming up. Okay. Because the connecting point to the announcement is, first of all, it was a foregone conclusion that he and ESPN were going to part company, as far as I'm concerned, and then in listening to folks in the know. I don't pretend to be a Rob Parker and Kelvin on Odd Couple. I don't pretend to be a big Ben Maller. Okay, I don't pretend to be, Dan Lebatard with his platform, but I listen to people that operate on that level, and that informs my opinion. Okay, and so listening and then saying, okay, now what do I think? Listen, ESPN, we're talking Disney. Disney is the big kahuna. You might know the worldwide leader, but it's that mouse in Florida that's making the final decisions. Okay, and so never mind that I have an issue with ESPN jettisoning talent. You get rid of a Max Kellerman, you get rid of a Tony Reali, you get rid of a Jeff Van Gundy. What the heck are you doing? I have no idea what they're doing. ESPN has just been jettisoning talented people for the longest time. It's almost similar to what's going on. Hey, shout out to this brave new world we're living in, folks. Shout out to this brave new world we're living in, the rise of the machines. Am I being dystopic right now? Am I trying to be a downer? No, I'm talking about what's actually going on in the world. I'm not saying this is going to happen, that's going to happen, it's the third's going to happen. But we're looking around, you say, talented, but we're going to give this job to AI. Because AI can, XYZ, ABC. But so-and-so was now outstanding. This is the rumblings that you're hearing out there. You're hearing it, I'm hearing it, everybody's hearing it. However much it comes to fruition, I don't know. I think at a certain point, these corporations are saying, honestly, we're going to fire all these people and just hire machines to, what people should say, we're just not going to buy your product anymore. That's what needs to happen, frankly. And okay, we're gonna outsource and just let a computer. By the way, check out this Stargate that's going on in Abilene, Texas. Talk about the largest construction project, which I kind of push back on a little bit because the United States has built some ginormous things. But this very large construction project going on in Texas, Stargate, which is like the AI super hub of the future that they're building, and people in Texas are, we're gonna get ahead of this, and people, anyway. All right, get ahead of it. Have AI make it better. But if you're not hiring, if you don't have people working for you, we're not buying your products. Okay, we want companies that have people. Now that's hard, because corporations are. But I think that's because somebody has to work. Can't fire everybody. But just a little bit of some of my takes on what's going on in the economic and technology space. Let's come back over here to Shannon Sharpe. Okay. His issue with ESPN is what he's been doing off camera. I've alluded to a lot of folks that were bawling on camera, Kellerman, Reali, Van Gundy, on and on and on. And the company just said, I'm sorry. Or the negotiation, and that's one of these things, whereas I don't want to all the way backhand ESPN. They are going to get a backhand because I feel that you should have made it work. But on the other hand, it might be a situation whereas, you know, you were always making this much, and then you had to take a haircut based on the changing landscape, people unplugging, so on and forth. So I think that's a factor as well. What does this have to do? And for the young people coming up, secure you. The name of the game now is not I get to ESPN, I get to Fox Sports. They give me a platform. I ball out on that platform and increase viewership, and then my numbers level up, right? That's how it has functioned since time immemorial to the very recent past. The name of the game now is Pat McAfee, plays kicker for whoever. Want to go into sports media like many people do after their career, gives them structure. They have ideas and insights that are right innovative. Never mind, that's where more of the eyeballs are going anyway. People are not consuming news in the traditional I saw a statistic. More people get their news from social media now than anywhere else. That's where people get news. Twitter, IG, Facebook, whatever streaming platform, that's the news. Not 60 Minutes, not CNN, these different streaming platforms. So the name of the game now, okay, you either have that magical touch where you can scale up very quickly in this online space. You know how to do it. You have a team. You invest the time. You know, you maybe take some. Okay, I was an accountant. I was you know, a whatever. I was an accountant. I was a carpenter. Okay, I was a corporate middle management person. I love to do this. It's growing. I'm going to devote more time to this so it continues to grow. And then all of a sudden you have an audience. By the way, a real audience, not a bot audience, but an audience. And people are tuning in. YouTube's making money. You're making money. Now here come the subscribers. Excuse me. Now here come the sponsorships and advertisers that want access to your audience. Okay. And now what the game is the networks who are dealing with the changing landscape, right? The networks are saying instead of paying this individual, and by the way, Shannon Sharpe has a huge audience, but his audience has taken a hit. People have kind of, and the narrative surrounding him, which, it is these things off of camera and in his life have impacted what he had. We're going to talk more about that. Okay? But my take that I want to get out there is I feel like there's a lot of talented, capable people who have been based in traditional media that those media companies, for one reason or another, have not supported. And I don't agree with this, or, and now those folks are either switching teams, right? Some people got ahead of this. Colin Cowherd got ahead of it. Now he's embedded. Chris Broussard and First Things First, Nick Wright, they got ahead of this. Now they're embedded. First Take is embedded. Right? These are programs that aren't going anywhere. But it seems like everybody else is even, Around the Horn was such a great show. Matt Kellerman is such a talented guy. But even programs like that, because you had Around the Horn, then you had Pardon the Interruption. Boom, boom. That hour is locked. Now there's talk, I'm hearing rumblings that Pardon the Interruption might not even be safe. What are you even thinking? Okay, let's get back to Shannon Sharpe. And the part about his brother that looms large for me. And we're gonna connect the dots. Well, let's get to Shannon Sharpe. Okay, because he had, and again, we're not getting into the gritty grimy details, but he had two, not one, two incidents in his personal life that were unseemly. He got a pass on the first incident. Why did he get a pass when other people who are balling right now? Let's give a shout out to Paul Pierce. His After Dark platform show that he has. We don't always, put it up here because we kind of stick. We don't do as much relational stuff. Shout out to the sports reporters. Great program. Bob Ryan, Kevin Blackstone was on the sports reporters back in the day. A lot of the Around the Horn crew were first on the sports reporters, which the sports reporters, when it started and for many years, is the equivalent of all of these Club Shay Shay, Nightcap, Pat McAfee show, Dan Lebertard show. The sports reporters was that new innovative dynamic, just a group of, journalists from all over the country getting together and just chopping it up. Okay, I feel like that program was a forerunner to all of the and said now we don't have the sports reporters. Each one of those individual reporters has their own show, rather than a collection getting together, an all-star team getting together and chopping it up. Okay, let's talk Shannon Sharpe now. He had the one incident. I just talked about Paul Pierce, who was recently jettisoned. Did I think he deserved to be jettisoned? No, I didn't. We talked about it. I know the different players. Yep. Fox Sports, they just had a shakeup, and I don't feel that they gave Speak, which used to be Speak for Yourself, with Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock, which was on point. I rock for the original Speak for Yourself. And you want to talk about being loyal to the soil and true to the grind? Your man Colin Cowherd did his full show and then came over and did Speak for Yourself with Jason Whitlock. Now, I know it's controversial and so on and forth, but that's the hustle. How Stephen A. Smith, people want to talk about, I deserve this, I deserve that. The man don't sleep. He got First Take. He got the Stephen A. Smith show. He got the NBA on ESPN. He's at all these. He's making a lot of money, but he has that Jay Leno in him. That Jay Leno in him, meaning we talk about Jay Leno, who for years when he was getting the bag, coming up after Johnny Carson at NBC, he ain't touched none of that NBC money. That was all going into the bank account to collect interest. He lived off of his stand-up money for years while he was at 20 million, 30 million, 40 million. They wanted to see, and they brought Conan in, and no, they didn't work out. So then they brought the Jay Leno back. And then finally he retired on his terms. He was the Johnny Carson for my generation. Stand-up comic from New England, greater Boston area. And he never lost the hustle. Never. That's how he has a car for every single day of the year. That's his, next project, and he loves cars and all the rest of that stuff. But when he was the man, he was still grinding like he was that stand-up at the Hole in the Wall Club in Boston. That's how Stephen A. Smith works. All right? To have and maintain his platform. And Shannon Sharpe was right there with him in terms of the work ethic and the grind. I'm going to come back to the things but let's keep this 100. It was working on Undisputed. Undisputed was a great show. It was solid. ebony and ivory. And they both brought something real to the table. And they have a lot in common as individuals. Let's talk about what they brought to the table. Skip Bayless, this award-winning journalist, written a number of books. He has the chapter and verse understanding. Shannon Sharpe, the individual who's been in the arena, who, by the way, folks might not know, overcame a speech impediment to be where he is. And has the knowledge. People were talking about there was skepticism about him because he's not a quote-unquote journalist. Well, who's a journalist? Does Dave Portnoy have a journalism degree from MIT or Harvard? Pat McAfee, where's his journalism degree? Stanford? You don't have to always have the academic credential to connect and communicate and bring people in and engage. And a lot of times, sometimes people that do have that background, you can't let things get lost in translation, and you can't big time people. Yes, we respect that you have this academic background, which gives you these credentials and this ability to do things, and that the average person, even though you think because you have an opinion, there's a difference. There's a difference. People want to talk about my homegirl, Mina Kimes, who's a balling at ESPN. She's a business reporter first. I ain't going to speak on, she don't like people with advanced degrees don't necessarily like to speak on it. But she has an elite degree, and she was an award-winning business reporter, publishing stories, breaking news, changing the narrative, correcting injustices that were taking place that needed a whistleblower and a story and information for some of those things to be rolled back. That's who she is as a person. Then ESPN saw she liked sports, and they went and got her and brought her to the network. But she has that academic background. Jemele Hill's another one who doesn't know. Jemele Hill is unbothered. Go check out Way Down in the Hole, her and Van Latham, a number for different platforms that she's on. And she kind of gets into this when she talks. How, this tension that was there on Undisputed about TV people versus journalism people, and there being this tension. It's always going to have that. But the bottom line is this. It worked in a big way. Undisputed worked. You can get into the numbers. Well, First Take had, there's more people had access. ESPN is a bigger footprint than Fox News. So I don't take those, well, First Take was a little bit more than Fox. Fox News was growing. ESPN was established. The fact of the matter was both programs, First Take and Undisputed, were on point as far as your boy is concerned. Very strong. And it's because you had that distinction. Never mind the fact that Skip was pro Brady and Shannon was, the opposed. Shannon pro LeBron, Skip was opposed. Okay? As Big Ben Malice said, you got to play the hits. You got to start with stuff that people know of and then bring them into other things that you might want to highlight. So they were on different sides of the line on those headlining topics, which, again, you don't want just people, an echo chamber. Okay? And by the way, another reason that Undisputed worked is because they both, and we're going to get to this with Shannon, had challenges in their upbringing. Skip Bayless talks about this. Yes, he's a high achiever. Yes, he only got one B in his entire high school career. So he was the salutatorian. Only because the teacher in this, I think it was a driver's ed class, wouldn't give A's. That's the only B he got. because he was in a class with a teacher that wouldn't give A's. And so instead of being the valedictorian, he was the salutatorian. By the way, I think we need to bring back the valedictorian and salutatorian. We don't have that because people get upset. I don't care if they get upset. It means something. Make sure that it's a level playing field and have the competition. And because somebody finished in second and they're upset, too bad. As long as the playing field is level, valedictorian, salutatorian, I'm supportive. That's life. You finished second. You know who else finished second? Okay, do I agree with everything? No. Is he a prominent person in history? Yes. Do I have vehement disagreements? Yes. Mr. Robert E. Lee, second in his class at West Point. Not a demerit did he receive. Thought of as the marble man. We know he was the general for the Confederacy because he's from Virginia. He could not raise his sword against his country. That's what he said. I cannot raise my sword against my country. My native state is my country. But when the conflict was beginning, who did Abraham Lincoln want to lead all Union forces? Mr. Robert E. Lee. Across the river, across the Potomac in Virginia. Lee said, I cannot. Okay? Again, we disagree on many things very strongly. He was a marble man. Okay? Marble. Committed, consistent, excellent. That's what's in Skip Bayless's background. And he did not have the support. He talks about his parents struggled with substance abuse as he was coming up. His dad passed away younger, 40s and 50s, because he never overcame it. His mom got into a program, got the support, lived into her 80s or 90s. But Skip Bayless talks about it. All that excellence. Academic in high school, then going on to Vanderbilt, shining bright, then going right into the workforce to be an intrepid reporter where he built up his career. Not one pat on the back. Not one thank you. Or we're proud of you. None of it. Okay? And that shapes the person that you become. He's extremely high achieving, driven, focused, but the interpersonal side of Skip Bayless, which he will even admit, is not there. His brother is an award-winning chef in Chicago. Look him up. Obama went to the White House, needed a chef. Who does he ask? Skip Bayless's brother. Brother told him, thank you so much, Mr. President. I would love to have this opportunity, but I can't leave. His brother, having that same upbringing in that environment with limited encouragement and support and instability, having to do for himself. Brother tells the president, thank you, but if I'm not at my restaurant, they're going to rob me blind. If I'm not there, they're going to rob me blind. I'm staying. Now, understand the mentality. You think about it, maybe you could find somebody you can trust and put them in control. I mean, but it's not all the way wrong. But to this day, Skip is not very close with his siblings. But he talks, and this is not me talking, this is him talking. I'm going to make the connecting point because we have a very important moment with Sterling Sharpe going into the Hall of Fame. Let's talk about Shannon across the way from Skip. Grew up in rural Georgia. I told you a little bit about myself. My grandfather, who lived to the tender age of 99 years old. Born in rural Georgia during the Great Depression, at the height of the Jim Crow era. Okay? Right? Talk about my problems, quote unquote, and we all have this versus what previous generations had to endure. It's night and day. Shannon Sharpe, rural Georgia, grows up in a house, no electricity, no running water, and he had to work. Talk about, ain't no sleepovers, ain't no going over a friend's house. We grew up, his family, and this is documented. They go back to the house, 5, 6, 7, 8 people living in that house, raised by his grandparents. He said, we get up in the morning, we work before school, we walk a mile to the bus stop, go to school, get off from school, walk a mile back, and then get back to work until sundown. Every day. Yeah, that guy, that Shannon Sharpe, that's how he came up. That's normal. And so when he talks about it would have, you can have your story. But the story about Sterling, who's inducted into the Hall of Fame, whose career was shortened, in the aggregate, the Sterling Sharpe have a Hall of Fame level career. In the aggregate. Okay? It's tough because he only got the 7 years. But let's be clear. Who was drafted ahead of Tim Brown? That's right, Sterling Sharpe. He was dominant in high school, college, and early in his career. They talk about it. Sterling goes to the first youth football game when he's coming up through the ranks, scores 5 touchdowns. Coach said every time he touched the ball, he scored a touchdown. This is in Georgia, where they just built a $65 million arena. Talking about what football means in that state, in those southern states. Every time he touched the ball, he scored a touchdown. His first youth game. Coach took a step back. That kid is special. That kid right there, special. We got a lot of talented. He's special. And the legend of Sterling Sharpe was born. Went on to South Carolina, balled out. Told you. Drafted ahead of Hall of Fame wide receivers in that NFL draft and was doing his thing for the Green Bay Packers before he retired early, and rightfully so, because this was before we even knew what CTE stood for. But inside of football, people knew. People understood the lifelong challenges that were ahead. Never mind the protections that NFL players need and should fight for and win when the league is worth, $25 billion. Every team getting over $400 million. But they can't take care of these players in perpetuity. Ridiculous. Sterling Sharpe saw the writing on the wall and retired early. 10, 20 years before that writing was seen by the general public. I was just a kid. I remember just seeing him getting I didn't really know who he was. I just remember Green Bay, Favre, Sharpe, touchdown. In the late 80s, early 90s. All right. Shannon, the younger brother. Now Sterling goes on, has the transcendent success. Shannon doesn't go to a Power 5 school, goes to Savannah State, does well, drafted late, 6th, 7th round, whatever the case may be. And then he just gets in, but Shannon was not heralded like Sterling. He worked his way, earned the starting job. I talk about it. What did Shanahan say? Dan Reeves say? You can't beat single coverage. You're either going to be coaching or selling car insurance. You can't beat single coverage for me. You are going to be coaching on the sidelines or selling car insurance because you ain't playing for the Denver Broncos if you can't beat no single coverage. Talk about preseason, what's going on right now. Guys trying, scratching, clawing to make the team. That was Shannon Sharpe. And he talks about it. The anxiety, the stress, the uncertainty, to the point of making him sick. I'm not going back to that house in rural Georgia. I'm going to make it to make my family's life better. I'm not going back. I won't go back. Never mind, he had a brother that was balling. Okay, and so back to Undisputed, folks. You have Skip on the one hand, award-winning journalist and established TV personality. Shannon on the other hand, okay, humble beginnings, mid-major college, late draft pick in the NFL, and he takes all of that and turns it into a 3 Super Bowl Hall of Fame career. So two people that have now at Undisputed found success, high-level success. Fox Sports bringing Skip over from ESPN to be one of their flagship programs to get their network off the ground, and then Skip seeing the potential with Shannon, saying, this is the guy I want with me. We can do this together. And they did. They built it up. It happened. It wasn't linear. Okay, Skip's going to come over, and take this opportunity, and we're not sure how it's going to work, but we're going to bring Shannon. And it worked. Okay, but then what happens in life? Familiarity, what does it breed? Exactly, it breeds contempt. Unfortunately, and that's where we have to, the human side of us, talk about this. What a fellow teacher said, and never forget it. You got to be careful what you wish for. You got to be careful because you might get it. What happened with Undisputed? What happened with Skip and Shannon? What they wished for, they got. Show was balling. I talked about it. It's not about a one-to-one because the footprints at ESPN and Fox are different. But Stephen A was doing his thing with First Take. Skip and Shannon were doing their thing with Undisputed. And it was competition. Two solid shows, and they were battling. Okay. But these overachieving type A personalities, right? A missed text message here. You don't respond to a hi in the hallway there. These little roots of bitterness. Little things, and they start to grow. Never mind the fact, Undisputed, it's on the left coast. All right. So 9:00 here on the East Coast is 6:00 there on the West Coast. So you had to change your schedule, right? You got to be up at 3:00 or 4:00. You got to be in the studio at, 4:30. You have to live a different life in order to have the success that they were having. It's not, and if you're going to be a night owl like me, you're going to have to, and you can only do it so much because you're not young anymore. You're going to go to bed at 12, 1. You got to be up at 3, 4. You come in tired, angry. It's only Tuesday. I got to do this rest of the week, messing up my. Okay, so there's sacrifices they had to make, but it was working. It's one thing if there's plenty of working class people out there that are making all kinds of sacrifices and it's just in the 9-to-5 grind. They're going to have the breakthrough. It's going to happen, but they're just in the middle of that journey, just journeying. There's no indication of if and when they're going to have the breakthrough, like Steve Harvey talked about, being in his car for 3 years before telling those $25 jokes before he had the breakthrough. That's what Steve Harvey was doing before he's there. Nobody want to talk about Morgan Freeman, how he's still making movies, because they had to wait till 50 before they took notice. That's why he's still making movies, because he didn't get his breakthrough till he's 50. It was working, but there were sacrifices. These little things, they start to grow up, and now it becomes antagonistic. And, well, the show is working, but we wouldn't have this show, if I didn't give you an opportunity. Well, you gave me an opportunity, okay, but look how I shine in that opportunity. It's like Bill Belichick looking at Tom Brady, like, you wouldn't be anything if I didn't give you an opportunity. I wouldn't be anything. And we see how that tug of war played itself out, is playing itself out. Once the success happens. Well, I gave you an opportunity as a backup, and I was prepared as a backup to deliver the Super Bowls, to be ready, right? Ebony and Ivory, they needed each other. It's a collaboration. It's a team effort. But the bickering starts out about who came first, the chicken or the egg. Right? You look at yourself and you say, doggone it. Can you guys just go on vacation and just forget about each other? Can we let you have agents. Can we let the agents just come in and talk for a minute and work this out? You only have to get along for these couple hours. The show is working. We have it down to a science. Okay? You only text at this time. I'll respond at that time. You don't have to love the person. Just give them the professional respect and keep it moving. What are we doing? Did Larry Bird have issues with Kevin McHale on his motor? Yes. Did Larry Bird demand Kevin McHale be traded back to Minnesota? No. Did Magic Johnson and Kareem hang out off the court? No. Did Kareem go to Jerry Buss and say, you got to trade Magic back to Michigan? No. What are we doing? Everybody's making money. Everybody has career advancement opportunities. Yes, year 3 and 4 of the relationship, i.e. marriage, is different than the freaking honeymoon. Honeymoon only lasts 2 years. It's called limerence. I learned it in a sociology class. Shout out to my sociology professor. He was wonderful. One of the best classes I ever took in my life. Limerence. 2 years people have when you meet somebody fresh and new. 2 years. Then they're just a person. Okay, that's life. Okay? Yes, fresh, new, excited. Then you got, it's just, they're a person. They're human. They're human, just like you. They make mistakes. You find out, you're happy as you get older. You're happy to have this person in your life. You know, there's all these people. I don't know everybody. I'm happy to know the people that I do know. And to form some positive bonds and relationships. Do we have to agree on everything? No, we don't. I leave you alone. You leave me alone. But we can work together on this stuff to make it happen. With Undisputed, that's what should have happened. 2, high achieving, type A, pull yourself up by your bootstraps people that started focusing all of that energy and drive at each other instead of up in terms of what they were doing. But this isn't a silver lining. No silver lining playbook. Shout out to, I forget the actor, but he's a really good guy that did Silver Lining Playbook. Bradley Cooper. Solid dude. No silver lining here. And so, right? Parting of the ways. Parting of the ways. What does this have to do with what's going on right now? I'll tell you what it has to do with what's going on right now. I'll tell you what it has to do with what's going on right now today. This is what, 2 years ago? 2 and change? I don't think it's 3. 2 to 3 years ago. And what does Shannon Sharpe have for prospects? He has Club Shay Shay, which started with Fox as a part of the agreement. He takes Club Shay Shay with him, which is growing, but he has a growing YouTube platform and nothing else. We're not going to see him every day. He's not going to get that everyday connection with just the general public. So Skip is going to stay with Undisputed to see if he can salvage that. By the way, I didn't have a problem when they brought Michael Irvin on, who was solid in the Keyshawn. People didn't. I didn't have a problem. Michael Irvin gave you the dynamism. Keyshawn was a really good interlocutor, which interlocutor. was a really good conversationalist to go back and forth with Skip. I didn't have a problem with it. People did. It worked for me because Michael gave you that special charisma and that extra, and then Skip gave you the baseline. Keyshawn, it worked for me. It was tough in basketball season because Michael Irvin, because I thought they needed Michael Irvin, but Michael Irvin's specifically a football guy, so that was the difference, right? You had Skip there, that you had Shannon who can go deep in the football, deep, but then can also shift over to basketball season as well. So you had it year round with just those two. Okay, you lost that, and you don't have another person that has that versatility. Michael Irvin's really good, but he's a football guy. Anyway, I didn't have a problem. It didn't end up going where it should have. Let's make the connecting point to then and now for Shannon Sharpe. He goes from being jettisoned out there like Tom Hanks in the ocean, crying for Wilson. There's no certainty. It wasn't going to be, and Stephen A. Smith made this clear, it wasn't going to be a situation where he was just going to be, the 1-2 punch at Undisputed. Stephen A. Smith made it clear that's his show with First Take. And he's bringing on different people, different days of the week. So that had to be ironed out. At first, it was like, okay, is Shannon now going to come and be what Max was on the previous First Take? And that wasn't happening, and they had to work that out. So where does he go? From being Tom Hanks, just adrift now in the ocean. What happens? Colin Cowherd comes through with the volume. Says, hey, we got this idea, right? Because we got some night owls out there. You might know some of those night owls. Got these night owls out there, like your boy, the Cape Cod Kid. They're up late, but we don't have an established YouTube brand for the late crew, for the late night folk, particularly during football season, after the games, after that Monday night, after that Thursday night, after that Sunday night. That's an opportunity in this YouTube space. People are doing early morning, but we don't got a late show. And hey, Unc, I know you're looking for things to do. Why not? Hey, I got the volume. You got Club Shay, Club Shay, but that's long form. We're getting deep into stuff. That's you know what I mean? That's speaking my language, like Q&A. Charlie Rose, who had his issues off the camera, but Charlie Rose is on point. He's back now. Long form is Club Shay. Why don't you give me some sports coverage late night, but with that extra, we can do some different things. It's late night. We can let our hair down, so to speak. It's late night. They worked it out. Had to be worked out. Unc says, no, I'm not talent. I'm I want a piece of the pie. So I'm not just talent you're going to give me. So when you see Nightcap, that's why you see the head, the glasses. So it's the volume, DraftKings, and Shannon. I'm not just a guy here. You're going to give me a piece of the pie. Colin, being a good businessman, said, hey, this thing takes off, we all going to eat. Ain't need to be no mine or yours. If it takes off, we all going to eat over here. What are we doing? Let's iron this out. DraftKings, you get yours. Colin, you going to get yours. Shannon, you going to get yours. And we're going to ball out. They worked it out. So now he's got Shay for the long form. This is pre-Cat Williams, folks. Cat Williams is coming up. He's got Nightcap with Ocho for my late night. This is Shannon's world. This is just almost like Stephen A's world. Nightcap is where I can just be Shannon and give you the behind the scenes stories and some of the nitty gritty that you really want to know. Everybody wants to know what it's like to be that celebrity, have money in your pocket, young, right? You can tell me, we can get into that side. People was loving it. And there's two guys that really know football. Takes off like wildfire. And now we say, hey, Stephen A., you only need me 1 or 2 days a week. I only really have 1 or 2 days to give you because I got 2 other brands that's blowing up. I can't do 5 days all the time being up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It wouldn't have worked in the traditional sense like what it was on Undisputed. But just like that, the trifecta. You only need 2 days. I only really need 2 days to give you to maintain my platform in front of the broad audience. I only got 2. You only need 2. Bet. Let's go. And then he go from being off in the Pacific Ocean, no Wilson, losing hope. Next thing you know, the big tanker come through out of nowhere, and Tom Hanks is back. He's back. Shay, Cat Williams, #1 in all of the YouTube. Nightcap, first year, 1,000,000 followers, 1,000,000 subs. Stephen A., first take, they going back to HBCUs. That's his brick and mortar. And by the way, folks, we are going to get to Gilbert Arenas. But with Shannon Sharpe, it has to be noted because right now, he's deep down in the valley. He's deep in the valley right now. Okay. But that's not, to me, the story. The story is going back to the beginning. Next career, sports media, Undisputed, neon content, doesn't work out. The breakup, one go this way, one go that way. Neither one really understood and sure what they're going to do. And as far as Shannon was concerned, he took those lemons and turned it into lemonade that he could sell for $15 a bottle. He turned it into that high-grade lemonade. That Napa Wine Country lemonade is what he turned it into. Where you had a trifecta. Shay, long form, nightcap, late night, do your thing, be you, talk, speak from the heart, and then my 9 to 5, only 2 days, and you don't even have to be in Bristol all the time. You can stay where you're at. We don't need you in the studio but once or twice for certain things. The rest of the time, stay where you're at. You're good. To the moon. He had it to the moon. And what's the connecting point, folks, to how we got here? I got to borrow now from Charlemagne. Shout out to the Breakfast Club. They do what they do, you know. And he's always talking about, you know what I mean, those relationships that you have in your life and just, you know, whether you're in a committed relationship, whether you're married, whatever the case may be, he talks about how that, you know, is kind of fundamental to and, you know, I let him speak, you know. I'm out here, you know, bachelor is what it is. You know what I mean? Hey, you know, you meet people that rock with, or if you don't, you do what you do, right? It is what, you know, that's where I'm at and how I feel about it. If it works, it works. If it's not, I got to do what I got to do. I'm for it, but I'm not for it not messing with the things that I need to do. Okay, but Charlemagne, that point that he makes, I think I bring that in because with Shannon, and we talk about how he literally turned nothing into something where it was a locomotive. And we talked about his background, what he's come from, type A personality. Okay. We say this sometimes in the African American community, working twice as hard to go half as far. In Shannon's situation, he was working twice as hard to go 4 and 5 times as far because he was seeing the fruits of his labor. But that does not negate the fact that pressure cooker, you know, he got 3 responsibilities, not 1, but 3. Yes, he's a workaholic, but that's still 3 responsibilities all day, every day. Does this justify or, talk away the stuff that he gets into off the field and off the camera and everything? No, it doesn't. But it highlights, for me, even when you are having a transcendent success. Shout out to Infinite Jest and David Foster Wallace. What happens when you get what you had wished for? What happens, as David Foster Wallace said, when you get what you wish for and you still feel the same? What now? It worked, but I still feel the same. These, or it hasn't brought stability, peace of mind, sense of self into your personal life. Your life, you, not the persona, the person. We talk about this with Hulk Hogan, Dark Side of the Ring. Can you separate the persona from the person? Shannon Sharpe, right? Now let's bring it to where we are today. I can't see people have a problem or issue with this. If you do, I understand. I've been going on one. I'm on one now. We haven't even gotten to Gilbert. We're gonna talk about Gilbert as well. We're gonna talk about Gilbert as well. And we have things that's taking place in the NBA in terms of my New York Knicks. So we locked in right now, folks. Shout out to Chris for providing the marinara. We locked in right now, folks. We ain't going nowhere. Ain't going nowhere. Shannon Sharpe was burning the candle at both ends. He's the one that money only makes you more of what you already are. And let me clarify what I'm saying with that. The success, the money, the fame, still not addressing, handling core personal issues. The fear, the worry, the concern. Can I continue to do this? Will I meet all my objectives? So on and forth. That doesn't justify you doing anything untoward. But my point relative to Shannon Sharpe is the type A personality, the workaholic, the way of doing things. Work is what, folks? It's a means. It's a means to an end. You can submerge yourself, as Stephen A. Smith does, in his work so that you always have something to do. You have a sense of purpose, so on and forth. That doesn't usurp the fact it is a means to an end. It's not an end in and of itself. As Lester told McNulty, what happens after the Stringer Bell case ends? What are you doing? You're sitting in a room by yourself. Lester told McNulty, the job will not save you. Job won't save you. Shannon Sharpe was an underdog who became a champion. As a champion, he kept the same underdog mentality. But for me, he lost track of what he was trying to achieve, why ultimately, beyond fame and fortune, he wanted what good beyond fame, fortune, status, success. Now, let's just stick with fame and fortune, which are attributes of success. What was the ultimate good for them? And so I'm being philosophical right now. And maybe you might like it, maybe you might not. Brick and mortar. He messed up the first time on IG Live. If he did not have his standing and background done. Talk about, again, Paul Pierce, his late night is solid. His content with Kevin Garnett is solid. And then he was on Fox. That didn't work out. Maybe he might be back. He's a California guy. Who knows? But he's experienced. I had something. I was there. I was building. I made a mistake. Gone. Had to start over. He started over. He built it back up. So Shannon got a mulligan. He got a mulligan. I remember, shout out to Around the Horn. It was a topic Tim Cowlishaw was talking about Michael Phelps. He got in trouble because he can, speaking of type A personalities, once they leave the training for the freedom that they very much desire and having the ability to have a life, okay? If it doesn't happen gradually, if you just go from training 7 days a week to training no days a week or 1 or 2 days a week, recipe, it's not good. It has to happen gradually with these high achieving people. And for Michael Phelps, it just went from Olympics to having too much time to getting in trouble. Cowlishaw, he went Around the Horn. He noted this because that was the storyline of the day. He said, I see a lot of people saying, well, Michael Phelps, and, he keeps getting in trouble. Why don't you just hire a driver? You keep getting these OUI, DUI situations. You're Michael Phelps. You're completely, just hire a driver. Kim Cal, no. That's not what you need to get help. You need to get help. Once it comes to that situation, for people that might not understand and have a background, it's not about just getting a driver, or you need to get help. And he spoke as somebody who has been there. Shannon Sharpe had the IG Live incident. It was swept under the rug because where we started this conversation, the brave new world in sports media, meaning the networks bend the knee to the audience. The influencers bring their audience to the networks, not the other way around. The young upstart brings his talent to the network that gives him an audience. No. I build my audience from scratch, and then the networks want in. You call me. I don't call you. The network calls. And again, if you're talking, this is the Dave Portnoy's, the Pat McAfee's, right? The Shannon Sharpes of the world. He had that standing, maybe has. And so, just like with the what does Mike Tomlin say? I'll deal with it till I can replace it. After the one incident, it was determined let me just get get things organized here. We can deal with this. We can deal with this because he is who he is. And you say, what, nothing changes if nothing changes. So there was no, he got a mulligan. And everything kept going on the outside as it was before. Yes, it was a part, people mentioned it. When Gilly was on the program, he referenced it. So it's a part of the conversation. You got to deal with that. But in terms of your business and your brand, all three are working full cylinder. So that leads right into incident number dos. Let's see if we can get this on the screen for you in terms of shout out to Steven Soderbergh. Relative to Shannon Sharpe, you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Shout out to Traffic and Steven Soderbergh. Let's talk about the two letters.
Let's see.
Thank you. Well, you've done a fine job, General. The Office of National Drug Control Policy is in better shape than when you found it.
I'm not sure I made the slightest difference. I tried. I really did.
Well, I think there's some positive signs. The work's just started. I plan on seeing it through. You can count on that.
You're here for 2 years. 3 maximum. What'd they offer you? Court appointment? What district? Appeals? Not Supreme.
Well, this is a tough enough job. I plan on focusing on this.
When Khrushchev was forced out, he sat down, he wrote 2 letters and gave them to his successor. He said, when you get yourself into a situation you can't get out of, open the first letter and you'll be saved. And when you get yourself into another situation you can't get out of, open the second letter. Well, soon enough, this guy found himself in a tight place, so he opened the first letter, which said, blame everything on me. So he blamed the old man. It worked like a charm. He got himself into a second situation he couldn't get out of, and he opened the second letter. It said, sit down, I'll write 2 letters.
Shout out to Traffic, Steven Soderbergh. That's what it come down to with Shannon Sharpe. Sit down and write 2 letters. Okay? Got himself in the first situation he should have been in. Got himself in the second situation he should not have been in. ESPN, Disney, the mouse, family friendly? No. No more. Okay. And the platforms that he has oversight of that have been built up, those sponsors, supporters, advertisers, right? We can't associate with these things. Your audience is not as robust. You need to straighten up and fly right. That's first of all. And then you have to now go back and build this up to what it was when you had the trifecta. Okay. What do they say? In life, it's tell me, what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? That's what it boiled down to. So it's unfortunate that Sterling Sharpe's, and this is what Shannon said, go back, we talked a little bit about it, in terms of his background. And his older brother, what he means to him, whose career was cut short, who people don't really know. It's a situation like the Manning family. People don't know, but you talk to people that Cooper, the oldest brother, was that guy. Not Peyton, not Eli, Cooper. Cooper was the one. He got injured. He couldn't continue to play. So the world knows Peyton and Eli. But people that were there, they talk about Cooper. And that's how it is with Sterling. Right? Doesn't have the standing that he would have, should have, had he played a full career. But if you know what I mean? How he is, how he played, if you just aggregate that forward, Hall of Famer, first ballot, no question. Right? And so it's fitting that his greatness, although it was short-lived in football, is being recognized. Fitting that the Sharpe family, first brothers to go into the Hall of Fame. It's unfortunate, that this is in the atmosphere. It's a part of the ambiance. Okay. In terms of that, I'm in agreement. Okay. Can we do this next week? We learned from Breaking Bad, negocios son negocios. These are media heavyweights in the attention economy. No. We do this when we have the highest leverage. People are going to tune in. Maximum exposure, maximum ROI. Okay. It would have been a huge story if they'd have released it next week. But you wouldn't have had this conflict, this light and darkness conflict. this unnecessary tension and drama. Right? Unfortunate is what I'll continue to say about it. The Sharpe family, from what I understand of them, who they are, what it took for them to become successful, this ain't gonna stop nothing. Okay, and in a certain sense, it is a reminder. Rural Georgia, 70s and 80s. All right? In terms of what they had to go through in order to get to this point. So I'll be following. It's a proud, important moment with Sterling going into the Hall of Fame. Encourage people to go ahead and look at the story of the family, which is quite remarkable. In terms of the headlines and the tabloid type stuff with Shannon, he's now, right? Good fortune is as light as a feather, and few men can handle it. One of my heroes, Ken Burns, his Ernest Hemingway documentary. Okay. Shannon now was down and out, made his way all the way back up to the heights. And now he has to rebuild his brand based on his 2 YouTube platforms, that are considerable. And so he's got to, it's another peak and valley situation. Wouldn't count him out to be able to do it. And it is, but it's different, right? It's a different haul because, when he had to reinvent himself after First Take, he can establish for himself an antagonist outside of himself. He can say, folks at Fox, Skip Bayless, these are my opponents that I'm battling with to carve out my place in the sports media landscape. When the opponent and the adversary is within, is the mirror man, right? That's a different journey, a different confrontation. To go through. Those unforced errors. It's not the man, it's not the company. It's talk about rounders. Huh? Do we need rounders? So we'll finish with Shannon Sharpe. And again, respect on the Hall of Fame induction and rebuilding, renovating, however you want to put it,
What do you need? 500 grand? Huh?
I need 15,000.
15.
Yeah.
I need a blowjob from Christy Turlington. Get the fuck out of here. $15,000?
Joey, seriously, what can you do for me, man? I mean, $500 not even gonna get me started.
God damn it, Mike. If 500 won't help, what's $2,000 gonna do? What kind of trouble you in?
I'm the worst kind. With the worst guy.
KGB.
Yeah.
Come here. Didn't I tell you? Never let that guy get a hold of you, huh?
You told me a lot of things.
Yeah. And you don't listen. I tell you to play within your means. You risk your whole bankroll. I tell you not to overextend yourself, to rebuild. You're going to hock for more. I was giving you a living, Mike. Showing you the playbook I put together off my own beats. That wasn't enough for you.
Listen, you know, this is one time I don't need you to tell me how I fucked up. I know I fucked up. What I need from you is money. I need whatever money you can give me.
See, that's the thing. This time there is no money. I give you $2,000. What's that buy you? A day? Nah, I give it to you. I'm wasting it.
That's fucking great.
You did it to yourself.
There it is.
You had to put it all on the line for some Vegas pipe dream.
Hey, I took a risk. You see all the angles. You never have the fucking stones to play one.
Stones. You little punk. I'm not playing for the thrill of fucking victory here. I owe rent, alimony, child support. I play for money. My kids eat. I got stones enough not to chase cards, actions, or fucking pipe dreams of winning the World Series on ESPN. You want me to call some people? Try and buy you some time, I will. Place to stay or the truck? No problem. But about the money, I gotta do this. I gotta say no.
It's fine. I understand.
Joey Knish. It's a New York legend right there. Said you did it to yourself. So it's from there. You got to build. You got to build it up. You have to build it up. Okay. It's not one. There's things. So we got to talk about Gilbert Arenas. He's arrested. Let's move over a different. Let's get this up on the screen. There it is. Okay. Gilbert Arenas arrested running an illegal poker game at his residence. And let's just start there. Okay, let's just start brick and mortar charges. Okay. And you say to yourself, okay, what's the big deal? Guys playing poker, who really cares? In the age of gaming and gambling, where the corporations have essentially taken over the numbers and that racket, which used to be the purview of local organized crime syndicates, the state cares, because all gaming revenue, which is in the billions, doesn't go to the local loan shark, doesn't go to the dude, it goes to the government, right? So that's on the face of it. Yes, you couple guys having a game, a couple $1,000, but when you're talking big money, tens, hundreds, millions of dollars, right? You can make the comparison with fantasy sports. Those things have been corporatized, i.e., taken over by the powers that be, ultimately meaning the state. Uncle Sam demands his cut. You want to talk about, certain medicinal products now, used to be illegal, shouldn't have been for years. Innocent, nonviolent offenders, criminalized, long sentences related to marijuana. People without economic means, people of color. Right. Now, okay, decriminalized, which is important, long overdue first step. But then not just decriminalize, legalize, meaning taxes. You can do it as long as I get I meaning the government, Uncle Sam, the uncle you might not know that you have, 20, 30, 40%. Do it all you want. But that revenue is flowing back into the system. No IRS check button. IRS don't check it. All right. Shout out to Casino, Martin Scorsese, based on the book by Nicholas Pileggi, which I read during my high school, college years. Doing a lot of reading. Need to do more reading. Okay. But yeah, that's the secret about Las Vegas. We're the only winners. You didn't know that? You didn't know that? Yeah, we're the only winners. Selling people dreams for cash. All right, and so that's where this goes from trivial, and dare I say juvenile, meaning people play cards, rummy, black, you know what I mean? People play cards. I don't count cards. I'm an English history person, so I'll talk to you forever and a day. But those empirical, exacting skills, I need work. I can't count cards and know combinations and read body language and all that stuff that goes into being a good card player. Not I. I'll watch rounders. That's about it. Okay, but I'm not one of these people that's banging on the door, because family and friends, can you hoop tonight? No, we got the local card game. Oh, that's cool. Guys get together, long day of work, sit down, obviously nobody wants to lose, but respectful. We play the game. Okay, I'm up 200, I'm down 200. You don't want if it get to the point where then you got to stop, but that whole, hey, I'm up over the course of the year. Maybe you make $3,000 or $4,000 total. Maybe you lose 1,000. You say you got to make it back the next year. It's not the end of the world. You got to work that off. You got to take, if you're a working person. All right, so I got to work that off over the course of. I lost $1,000. To my mind, okay, so obviously I can't take any losses, so I got to make up 100 a month, essentially. I don't want to work, but I'm going to work. I'm going to take this extra overtime because I got to work off this debt, period, end story. And when you're up, then you take that money, hopefully you invest it, and you're good. Right? So that's fine and dandy. But again, with the modern perception, the modern reality of gambling, which belongs to the government, now this takes on a different tenor and tone. Okay. We'll see if we can get Gilbert, and he's Hold on a second. We'll talk a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about just where it is, and then I have to work my way back, because this is another rags to riches, and then possibly back to rags. Okay, so now let's look at recently in the headlines. This is Gil coming out of jail. Somewhat funny, not really funny. One more time. Can't hold me. Right? Y'all can't hold me. Okay. So let's come back now. Right? So for starters, yes, they can hold you. That's what they just did, because you have been implicated, been charged, meaning a grand jury looked at the evidence and said there's enough to charge and detain you. Knew something was off. I'm getting so into it, I knocked over my setup here. Let me get, because this is important. We gotta have, okay. Good. It's good enough for state work. Getting into it, you know what I mean? I knock over, make sure my comb need to be where it's supposed to be. Gotta have, you know what I mean? Stickler for these things. Yeah. You can be detained. Depending on how this proceeds, you may be detained again. But it's the making light of it that we've seen this before from Gilbert Arenas. We've seen very serious situations. You know what I'm talking about. I have to get it for you on the screen, folks. Can we, is that the right image? No? See Knepel? Let's see if this looks familiar to you folks. Let's take a look. Look familiar? Huh? I look familiar to you? Making light, having fun, all laughs, no problem here. Just make sure I got it. Okay. Just gotta get the screen organized here. Okay. 20 tabs open. I don't need all this commercial. What's going on over here? Thank you. Close that out. This is 15 years ago, in 2010. Did Gilbert Arenas' career recover from this? Was Agent Zero the same in his NBA journey? Never mind the injuries that he had beforehand. Never mind what the Washington Wizards could have been had Gilbert Arenas, Caron Butler, and Antoine Jameson all been healthy at the same time, going to work. Besides the fact that the Wizards franchise in general, it's been 15 years, hasn't gotten itself back to this point, even though they have a boatload of young talent right now and a coach that can get through to them. We're going to store that away for later. But the issue of guns in the locker room under the leadership of David Stern, who built the modern NBA, who was an innovator, who looked at the players as partners, who created a rising tide to lift all boats, to take NBA athletes from the absolute bottom basement of the celebrity pyramid to the pinnacle. LeBron James talking about a league in Europe or Saudi Arabia to pay athletes $250 million. That comes from what David Stern built. That environment. And with that, David Stern from Brooklyn, BK, do not test me. Do not try me. It was a double-edged sword with him as he passed the baton to Adam Silver. What does this have to do with Gilbert Arenas for some of the younger folks out here? This response to a serious incident, another way of saying that is an incident that David Stern took seriously. David Stern took it seriously. Gilbert Arenas clearly did not. And what became of his NBA career after this? A talented all-star level player. Yes, he had injuries. But injuries aside, This effectively ended his NBA career. Yes. And I'm a little bit animated here because we're going to get to what he has built up from scratch in terms of his presence and his place in sports media, which he's carved out from scratch. From this point, and now 15 years later, again, human beings, creatures of habit, whatever you want to put it or say it. You know, we get into these high, what do they say? You don't know what you'll do. Hold on. Up on 110th Street, trying to catch a woman that's weak. He said, you don't know what you do. I can't sing it like Bobby Womack. Till you're put under pressure. You don't know what you'll do till you're put under pressure. Coming across 110th Street is a hell of a tester. You don't know what you'll do till you're put under pressure. So, yes, Gilbert Arenas is under pressure. He is projecting that it's not a high leverage or stressful situation, but it is. And this is how he's responded previously, and this is how he's responding right now. But again, the previous situation, and you're not going to tell me what to do. You can't hold me. I have rights. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Some of those things or all of those things may be true. But the fact of the matter was and remains that Agent Zero was not long for the NBA after this. And he wasn't advanced in years, had talent, but that was lost in translation. As far as basketball and the NBA was concerned, they moved on without him. All right? So just making the connection between 15 years ago and right now. Max Player on the Wizards, a team that had stayed by him when he was injured after injured after injured. It's not really good semantics, but you know what I'm saying. Injury after injury after injury. He wanted to do things his way. He's not alone in that. I certainly have plenty of stubbornness in me. But what were the results? Okay? Yeah. Adios. Those 5, 7, 10 years of further basketball had you taken a step back, accepted some accountability, taken a step back, been accountable, made some changes, not all, some changes, and kept the main thing, could have continued. But no. Folks, that's 15 years ago. We go back maybe 10 years ago. Gilbert Arenas And it wasn't Gil's Arena, it was No Chill with Gil, which I know and remember because I used to see those episodes on Fubu TV. They'd be on Fubu TV. You know, when you get a flat screen TV and there's certain channels that come with the flat screen TV, and Fubu is one of them, and they have some sports on. They had some pretty good sports programs. One was talking about soccer. The other one was drinks with Banks. Didn't know who, forget her first name, Banks from Canada. You know, watched her program. And then, right, that was two guys from Jersey talking soccer, whose name escaped me, but it was a good program. Drinks with Banks. And then No Chill with Gil, which is basically Gilbert Arenas and one of his buddies. And that was his YouTube channel or social media platform. You know, and he did some interesting stuff. He interviewed H.O.F. The leader, founder, CEO of the Compton Magic. Okay, very good interview with Tope. But a lot of his messaging, appeal, platform, then No Chill with Grill. Who is this guy? No Chill with Gil. And then now with Gil's Arena, much of what is appealing and draws people in, I can't speak for people, me, is the nostalgia and the looking back at his career and at the NBA life and reevaluating, examining his experience and the experience of the pro athlete. And you see a completely different side of Gilbert Arenas. Contemplative, patient, thoughtful. Right? These are synonyms. Thoughtful, insightful, contemplative. You know what I'm saying. And he breaks down all of these situations that he went through as that young, confident, high-flying athlete and how he sees them now as an adult with a family and a platform that he's trying to develop and build up. That's a core component. Yes, they joke and they go back and forth and they argue. But No Chill with Gil to Gil's Arena teaming up with King Josiah. You got Rashad McCants, who played at New Hampton from Asheville, North Carolina. Saw him play in prep school. Kenyon Martin, others. He's built up a reputable platform and brand within the sports media space. From just a former player with one friend and a couple Twitter followers. So again, this is a common theme of rags to riches and now possibly back to rags, particularly with this same attitude that this isn't serious. Well, they arrested you. You're looking at state charges. Let's see. I don't want to be. Let's just. So the fall from grace alone. is tough. All right. Oh, right. Yeah, he could be facing some state charges, but this has been prosecuted. This is being prosecuted at the federal level. Right? The state itself has plenty of resources, but the federal government, the U.S. District Attorney, is prosecuting this. And you're skipping down the stairs of the courthouse. Just like 15 years ago, you were making light in the warm-up. Forcing David Stern's hand and cutting a promising NBA career short. It's different. All things, but it's the same. Okay? Meaning, it's, you want folks that pull themselves up and, get to a certain place, right? He's charismatic. He's insightful. If you can combine those things, which he has, put a team around you, there's no surprise to me that Gil's Arena has become what it is. The trajectory in and of itself is surprising. From an independent, on alternative networks to now leading the news cycle in certain instances. In a short period of time, you tip your hat to him. Never mind the fact that his son, McDonald's All-American, promising college athlete, dealing with an injury, okay, had a car accident, okay. Neither one of those things is okay. So, with Gilbert Arenas, this is unfolding. He is entering a storm. Buddy mine's a fisherman. Calm sea never made for a skilled sailor. All right. So as far as I'm concerned, never mind, you built something up. It's all going in the right direction. Now you're looking at, it being derailed, having to right the ship in terms of just your business, your brand. Then concurrent with that, more importantly, to defend yourself in a criminal court of law, criminal, not civil. I'm hopeful. I'm hoping that Gilbert Arenas, learning from his previous brushes with authorities and the law, would take this situation very seriously. Would understand that making light is not going to be helpful, right? It's one, yes, you can be yourself, and I'm handling, and you can be even keeled, have a carefree affect, all of that stuff, right? But to say that federal charges are not serious, or that these authorities cannot hold you, you might feel that way. You might want to have that confidence. Fine. But now, as a public figure, okay, the wasn't at his house in his living room with his friends. It was on national television for everyone, including David Stern, to see. Okay? So the shimmy shake coming down the courthouse steps, right? You want to do all, you want to be confident behind closed doors, fine. That's probably good to keep your spirits up. But in terms of your public, forward-facing affect, persona, I would, who am I? My feeling is more reserved, concise, humble approach may be more beneficial. We shall see. And hey, it's gonna play itself out. Hoping that Arenas himself, his family, okay, they are in good stead, and just preparing for the road ahead. And it remains to be seen. Okay, folks, gonna finish out with Slice of Life, as we do. Let's see what we have. Okay, we'll be discussing this in detail next episode for sure, about a team that wanted to jettison an elite coach for coaching, and the realities of team development in the second apron era. Mikal Bridges, La Cosa Nova member, agreeing to a 4-year, $150 million, agreeing to a 4-year, $150 million extension, folks, but taking a bit of a haircut. Taking a haircut to give the team flexibility so that they can compete for championships. It's the same thing that JB, as in Jalen Brunson, did last summer. All right? Yeah. something the teams have to consider. As I said, the Celtics, they were so concerned about the second apron. This is how they should have proceeded to keep that team together. Also, has to be noted, Mikal Bridges coming to New York to play for Tom Thibodeau. Right? To win a championship, how is it going to be done? We need to keep the group together. This is one of the ways that we can do that. He's willing to do the things necessary to win a championship. People say, okay, you got to take all your money and play for a lottery team. Take the money, play for the lottery squads. Okay. See where we're going from here. Talk about, yes, the basketball tournament. We'll talk about that. All right, let's get some perspective. Let's get some perspective. Everybody out there is doing well in television land as SandCity winds down.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody get they folder with me. You
for
know
sure,
what I'm
for
saying?
sure.
We spend time, kick it with you. I kind of see who you is, or you the dude. You be lying all the time. That's the line is. Everybody get they folder over time. It's never a rush.
Yeah.
Time is gonna tell me who you are.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you what I want you to do, who I want you to be. I'm gonna just watch who you are as time passes and see what you like. You know,
For sure.
we spend time. Kick it with you. I kind of see who you is, or you the dude. You be lying all the time. That's the line is. Everybody get their folder over time. It's never a rush.
Yeah.
Time is gonna tell me who you are.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you what I want you to do, who I want you to be. I'm gonna just watch who you are as time passes and see what you like. You know, shut up. You know what I'm saying?
There it is. Trust but verify. So, right, you're gonna tell me that's no lies detected. As they say, if somebody tells you who they are, believe them. Some would say the first time doesn't mean people have to be perfect. Nobody, I get all that. But if I'm seeing this over time, if he's seeing it over time, I know what you are or who you are, what you're about, then I can proceed accordingly.
Ways to make sure that I positioned myself to be able to provide for my family. That was always what it was about. It's like, whatever sacrifices that I have to make, you just brought up me as a father. One of the sacrifices I have to make, sometimes I got to be on the road. And I make sure my daughters and I talk every single day, but they understand. And I love that what I'm doing. Like, I love the fact that I'm in television.
I'm at it.
Put on the TV. There he is. When somebody asks you, where's your dad? You don't know. No, he's right there. He's at work. He's at the game. He's doing this. He's doing that. It was a very, very big thing to me because it was me sending a message to let them know this is what a man is supposed to do. Your number one responsibility as a man is to provide and to protect when it comes to your family. And if you ain't doing those two things, you're not being a man. And that's just how I was raised because of what I saw my mother endure. Yeah. My mission was always to make sure that.
Solid take, Stephen A. First, Straight Shooter. I listen to it on Audible as I do these days. I'm not doing a cold media like I should. I talked about this. I listen to Straight Shooter on Audible, cover to cover. I recommend it. So what he said, how he said it, how he works, how he grinds. That's, picture of him clearly with his mother, who's very important in the book, which is autobiographical. So just a quick shout out. I recommend it. Learned a lot about just Stephen A. life in general. He's a gifted communicator, as you know, gifted writer. But whether hard copy, paperback, Audible, I would check it out. Just wanted to get that out there. In terms of this take about, what fuels people to great heights.
I positioned myself to be able to provide for my family. That was always what it was about. It's like, whatever sacrifices that I have to make, you just brought up me as a father. One of the sacrifices I have to make, sometimes I got to be on the road. And I make sure my daughters and I talk every single day, but they understand. And I love that what I'm doing. Like, I love the fact that I'm in television.
You know where I'm at.
Put on the TV. There he is. When somebody asks you, where's your dad? You don't know. No, he's right there. He's at work. He's at the game. He's doing this. He's doing that. It was a very, very big thing to me because it was me sending a message to let them know this is what a man is supposed to do. Your number one responsibility as a man is to provide and to protect when it comes to your family. And if you ain't doing those two things, you're not being a man. And that's just how I was raised because of what I saw my mother endure. Yeah. My mission.
Strong. Let's keep it moving.
We have a hard time seeing someone that looks like us have more than us. It's not the fact that they don't have it. They just don't want you to have it. Because for the longest time, because I've had homies, as long as I was doing what they were doing, had the exact same thing as they had, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
We cool.
Yeah.
I started to go here. They didn't go with me.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
I changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Unfortunate part about it, you didn't change with me. But it's sad. The thing is we have a hard time seeing someone that looks like us have more than us. It's not the fact that they don't have it. They just don't want you to have it.
Woo!
Because for the longest time, I've had homies, as long as I was doing what they were doing, had the exact same thing as they had, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
We cool.
Yeah.
I started to go here. They didn't go with me.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
I changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Unfortunate part about it, you didn't change with me. But it's sad. The thing is we have.
Talked about Shannon a lot. He has a gift in terms of communication, how he says things, how he expresses himself. You can see it here. And is this, again, not a lie detected.
Have a hard time seeing someone that looks like us have more than us. It's not the fact that they don't have it. They just don't want you to have it. Because for the longest time, I've had homies, as long as I was doing what they were doing, had the exact same thing as they had, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
We cool.
Yeah.
I started to go here. They didn't go with me.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
I changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Unfortunate part about it, you didn't change with me. But it's sad. The thing is.
Sad it is. Hey, like I say, hey, don't play it. Hey, congratulate. Learn from it. I know, a little sting. Might be a little sting in there. That's human. That's human. But you don't congratulate and keeps it moving.
You've been pampered since you was skilled, right? AAU, college, right? High school, like you've been put on a pedestal. When they got to college, somebody was doing their homework, somebody was doing their laundry, and then you get to the NBA, you on your own for the first time, trying to figure out how to be an adult with all the money in the world. Now, when you're done, most players didn't have plan Bs. We sitting around trying to work out, and then it becomes a depression because everything we know left. So most guys' habits, those bad habits, drugs and gambling, that happens usually when they're done because they're trying to fill the void of practice and games. The first year, you don't notice it. When reality kicks in that you ain't going back no more, now it's like, who are you? I don't know. I've been a basketball player since I was 10. 20-something years of being a basketball player. Rules, structure, this. Now you're saying, all right, have fun. Now you're trying to figure out how to be a dad. Yeah, you was a dad in the NBA, but what does that really look like? You're playing games at night, they're asleep, you get home, you're traveling, you're gone 14 days, you come back. You the dude that's interrupting their lives. So being a father for the first time, our competitiveness, that's what gets triggered. That's where the depression comes in because we don't have the locker room to talk no more. We don't have the practice. Where's our aggression gonna happen? Now we talking to a girl looking at us like we ain't no more. You ain't got no games that they watch these kids. Well, that resume is old now. Most of our problems come when we're done because we have to try to reinvent ourselves from the person we was since we was little. That's real shit. Be honest, it's difficult. You've been pampered since you...
Again, we're gonna let this cook again. I said again twice. But just to understand the other side of Gilbert Arenas and how he's able to express and communicate to and build it, you can see. I hope this is the framework and the lens that he takes publicly and privately to address his current legal situation.
Was skilled, right? AAU, college, right? High school, like you've been put on a pedestal. When they got to college, somebody was doing their homework, somebody was doing their laundry, and then you get to the NBA, you on your own for the first time, trying to figure out how to be an adult with all the money in the world. Now, when you're done, most players didn't have plan Bs. We sitting around trying to work out, and then it becomes a depression because everything we know left. So most guys' habits, those bad habits, drugs and gambling, that happens usually when they're done because they're trying to fill the void of practice and games. The first year, you don't notice it. When reality kicks in that you ain't going back no more, now it's like, who are you? I don't know. I've been a basketball player since I was 10. 20-something years of being a basketball player. Rules, structure, this. Now you're saying, all right, have fun. Now you're trying to figure out how to be a dad. Yeah, you was a dad in the NBA, but what does that really look like? You're playing games at night, they're asleep, you get home, you're traveling, you're gone 14 days, you come back. You the dude that's interrupting their lives. So being a father for the first time, our competitiveness, that's what gets triggered. That's where the depression comes in because we don't have the locker room to talk no more. We don't have the practice. Where's our aggression gonna happen? Now we talking to a girl looking at us like we ain't no more. You ain't got no games that they watch these kids. Well, that resume is old now. Most of our problems come when we're done because we have to try to reinvent ourselves from the person we was since we was little. That's real shit. Be honest, it's difficult. You've been pampered since...
He has it. This is a side of Gilbert that I didn't know existed until I started following, his second act, No Chill with Gil, now Gil's Arena. For him. So that contemplative, insightful side is there. That get up out my face, you can't hold me side is there. As he's going through this trial, I hope he leans to this side and handles this situation, takes accountability, learns, and moves forward. We're going to finish with it's a good story about
team full of Division III hoopers is having one of the most legendary runs in basketball. Allow me to introduce you to We Are D3,
yes, sir.
A TBT team comprised of all Division III alumni competing in the basketball tournament for $1 million. To understand what this run means, you have to understand what Division III is about. Division III is a level where no scholarships are given. Athletes are playing sports for the true love of the game. Division III means taking out loans to finish school, $15 spending limits on meals, 3-hour bus trips for out-of-conference games, and truly getting it out the mud for your dream to play professional basketball.
Yes,
this
sir.
We Are D3 team has shown that there's talent at every level, and the best of Division III can compete with anyone on any given night. They've truly put a stamp on Division III, and I can't wait to see how the division grows from this run. If you want to support We Are D3, they'll be playing on Thursday, July 31st against the Aftershocks, Wichita State's alumni team. These D3 guys have showed the basketball world that there's talent everywhere and that this is just the beginning. If you want to hear these guys' stories, check out my podcast, Not Even D2, that I co-host with my boy KJ. Many of these guys have shared their stories on our podcast, and they're worth your time.
Hey! I say, go check that out. I just got the clip. I got to go follow. That was solid, man. But some of those guys, we are D3. They have South Shore Cape connections, so I was thrilled to see them balling out. Check out. They got to check the score to see how they did today. Get that dub against Wichita State. Go ahead and get it. Got to get it while the getting is good, folks. SandCity.